up, everybody? It's Aaron with Robert, and this is Get Your Geek On's review of What If
Thor was an only child. So this is episode 7 of What If. We have 2 episodes remaining. And
you called it, by the way. I want to say that first.
Well, yeah. Spoiler alert for What If, because we are going to be spoiling, I think, not just this episode.
No, not just this
previous episodes as well as
it's all
speculation for the future.
Wait, conspiracy theory time? About how Mephisto's part of it?
Maybe at the end.
Okay.
Maybe at the end. Maybe. But no.
Mephisto.
Not gonna let you talk.
Dr. Doom.
Anywho. So yeah, what if Thor was an only child? So in this universe, the big change was that when the Asgardians had their big fight with the Frost Giants, and Odin recovered Loki, instead of taking him home with him and raising him as his son, he gives him back to the Frost Giants. And apparently that not only engenders peace with the Frost Giants, but it kind of seems to have brought peace really with a lot of the other people. Because, you have to remember that those events are thousands of years old, because Loki and Thor are thousands of years old.
Exactly.
Right? And so this isn't like, oh, this just happened 25 years ago. No, this, like, that change is hundreds of thousands of years old.
Right.
And so there's been a lot that's played out very differently. Now on Earth, things have pretty much played out the same because there hasn't really been any interference.
Right.
But other than that, throughout the cosmos, I mean, you've got characters like Grandmaster, who, apparently is not evil. I don't know. Surtur is hanging out with Thor.
Surtur's just chilling.
Like, so, yeah, there's a lot of, like, characters which I think, this episode, maybe more than any other, just really went full on, like, we're just going to mess with everything. We're just going to, we're going to have fun, and we're not going to care about all of these characters and would they really be here or not. Because if you try and look too deep into this episode, there's a lot of logistical things. There's a couple that I will call out, but in terms of like characters, I think they just went, we just want to have these people. We want to have Grandmaster in here. We want to have Surtur. And by the way, Clancy Brown returning as Surtur for his like moments where he's flirting with the Statue of Liberty, or, doing the limbo on power lines and cutting out, like, that was hilarious. Yes. I thought that was great. But what are your overall thoughts on this episode?
Overall thoughts? I would say this. Again, when we get away from having to connect to the main story stuff, I like it. We didn't have to have like an Agent Carter, or I'm sorry, Captain Carter. There's still that love interest. We had those parameters. And I think, my favorite episode was T'Challa Star-Lord, where we didn't have any book to follow anymore. We didn't have to keep certain key points. Right. And this one did the same thing. The only key point was Jane Foster. And even at that, it fit pretty well. I really enjoyed this one. It's up there now for me. I honestly am torn between T'Challa Star-Lord and this one, actually. Okay. I will say that. So I really enjoyed it. I love seeing all the characters. We had Howard the Duck. We had Rocket. We had Drax. We had, like you said, Surtur. We had pretty much everybody.
I mean, Korg showed up.
Korg was there.
We
Nebula.
Had Frost Giant Loki.
Loki.
Tom Hiddleston, I thought, killed it.
He did. He did. Was Nebula still Kristen Gillian? Right? Or what's her name?
I think so, yeah. Kristen Gillian.
That was Gillian. I got a name almost right.
So
close yet so far. I enjoyed it, though. I think this was a good story.
Yeah, I think for me, this was like good old fashioned popcorn. Like this was a fun episode.
Yeah.
It was not. Certainly, the T'Challa one is still my favorite because that one felt more substantive. It felt like there was stakes and things that were happening, like, mattered. This one, I mean, they're making jokes about, like, nuclear weapons. Like, so this one is right up until the very last moment is very much just a fun episode. I mean, you have Frigga being like, "Thank God Odin's in the Odin sleep. I can actually go have some fun." Like
that was funny.
So it's one of those things where, again, I think this was a fun episode for sure. It had a lot of fun moments and interactions. And, I thought, again, the Frost Giant Loki was super fun. Howard the Duck showing
I thought
up.
his was hilarious. Still Seth Green, I'm thinking, too. It sounded like him. Green,
and I think it's hilarious that
he
him and Darcy get married. So she's Darcy Duck now.
Darcy Duck.
Or Darcy the Duck.
That's right. He says the Duck.
If it isn't, this is the Duck.
That was hilarious.
So yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. Certainly you basically get Party Thor because he didn't have those trials and tribulations of having a brother and all those different things. And so he's kind of a spoiled brat.
He really is. And I do like that he was very frat boy, which is what I would feel Thor would have been. And he comes to Earth, Jane tries to warn everybody, nobody listens.
Yeah.
He comes to Earth to have a party. The party gets going, and it basically, who knows what's going to happen? It seems like everything's going to get destroyed, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, at least according to
Shield's numbers, I guess?
Well, Jane Foster, the last time this, energy showed up, it destroyed a planet.
Right.
And so that's what she's worried about, that this is going to end up destroying the planet. And it kind of seems like as you go through the episode, like, that's not really what happened.
Yeah.
But certainly Thor is not, he doesn't really have great regard for the places he ends up.
Right.
He just wants to party.
And I think we get that with everybody. This is just a bunch of frat boys, essentially.
Yeah, everybody's just there to party. I did like that, they call out that, because Frigga even says, like, well, Heimdall will be watching. And so they call out that, like, Earth is so inconsequential that Heimdall won't be watching it. But this is there's two aspects of this that I did have questions about. Okay. Because number one, wouldn't Heimdall still be watching Thor? So even if Thor went, like, he would be like, hey, wait, where's Thor?
Yep.
So that is one thing. And then the other thing is it looked like they arrived in Las Vegas via the Bifrost.
Right.
Now, I guess maybe they didn't.
Okay.
But we also don't know that there's another way for them to get off of Asgard.
That's true.
And especially if you look at the events of, like, the Avengers, when Thor shows up and Loki even, talks about, because the Bifrost's been destroyed, like how much dark magic had to be, conjured for you to make this visit. So we kind of get the sense that other than Loki's, like, secret passageways, there aren't other ways off of Asgard. Now, maybe in this universe, Thor discovered those secret passages.
Right.
But we're never shown that, so I don't know.
Yeah, and that's true. I mean, we do have a comment about the dark magic when his mom shows up as, like, a hologram.
Right.
And he's like, Mom, you must be using a lot of dark magic to make this message. How's it going?
So, those are a couple of the logistical questions that I had centered around how did they get to Earth and why isn't Heimdall watching them? Mm-hmm. And then later in the episode, the physics of Mjolnir, which I have problems with.
Okay. Which part with his?
Well, so we see throughout his battle that, like, he's throwing it around and everything, which is totally fine. Mm-hmm. But then he puts it on Captain Marvel's chest, which is echoing the moment in Loki. And we don't see her get up. We don't see her really struggle either. Right. But it's kind of implied that she can't get up.
Right.
But two questions. Number one, the enchantment that made it so people had to be worthy in order to lift the hammer happened in the events of Thor.
Right.
When he was cast out of Asgard.
Right.
So either there is no enchantment on the hammer, which means she should have been able to get up. Mm-hmm. Or if there is an enchantment on the hammer, you're telling me party boy frat Thor is worthy? Like, I have questions.
That's a good point.
So I think they're playing a little fast and loose with that.
That one, yeah. And it really has, and I think ever since Jane Foster became Thor, they had to change they changed it a little bit because it says he who is worthy, can be the power of Thor. Well, then it had to become anyone almost who's worthy could wield the power of Thor, because now it has to be a female being Jane Foster.
And in the movie, he does say, because I think that was after Jane Foster had already become Thor, the line is, whosoever wields this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor. Right. So I think there's enough
they do play in there. But
they always do, though. But again, if you're looking at the events of this, either there shouldn't be an enchantment on it, or if for some reason Odin, Thor did something else that Odin decided to put this enchantment on it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand. Like, you can't tell me this version of the character is worth.
Because, I mean, this is where he was going in Thor before being shunned to Earth. He was kind of still going down this route.
Yeah, I mean, but not quite this bad.
Not this bad, yeah. But he was going there. But yeah, that is a good point. That is a good point about Mjolnir.
Anyways,
I still think I like it. Now,
yeah, it's a fun episode. Those are just things that I thought of as I was watching.
Yeah. Now, I want to get to the end. I mean, this whole episode's a fun episode. Watch it.
Yep.
The end, though. Mm-hmm. We had said that we think somehow Uta was going to get involved. At the end, he's like, oh, everything's at peace.
They lived happily ever after.
And then we see Ultron Vision.
Well, before that happens, the Watcher is caught by surprise.
That is true. He is caught off surprise.
Happening.
Right, because he doesn't know what's happening. That's a good point.
And so it's one of those things where he's telling these stories as if they, like he
knows where they end.
Yeah, he because he's kind of telling this almost like their histories, because he's telling us they lived happily ever after.
Right.
And then somebody shows up to mess it up.
And it's a bunch of robots, and it's Ultron Vision, because he's in the Vision body.
Correct.
With the Infinity Stone.
Yes, indeed.
What did you think when you saw that? I want to know that first.
Well, first I went, holy crap. I think that's super cool. Mm-hmm. And then it's also like, this is really cool for this to be the multiversal threat. And then as I was reading, like kind of after the episode aired, I understand that was kind of like that Ultron is like the ultimate big bad of the What If series. Mm-hmm. And so that makes sense that they would bring him in. But it's just super cool to have him. Yeah. I mean, obviously he's not from this timeline. Nope. He's not from Thor's timeline. We don't know if maybe he was from one of the other timelines. The only one that I could see it possibly being is maybe the T'Challa storyline.
See, I was thinking that.
Or the Captain Carter. Like, it had to have been one of those two.
I was thinking the zombie one. Because now Thanos brought the gems.
That's true.
So,
but we do know in that one we see Vision, and he's not Ultron.
He's not Ultron. Yeah, Vision. That's the only problem with that one.
So, yeah.
And
So,
But then it makes it different who made Vision in that one. Because that means Ultron had to be there somewhere.
Well, yeah, I mean, so what we know is, like, in the Captain Carter one, really the only difference is that Captain Carter shows up instead of Captain America. Mm-hmm. So we could assume that the rest of the events would play out pretty similar. So Tony might still build Ultron.
Yeah.
Right? In the T'Challa one, again, T'Challa is taken. We do know that Ego shows up at that point in the events, which is right around Age of Ultron. Mm-hmm. So Ultron may not have been, I think Ultron happened maybe a year or two prior to that Guardians of the Galaxy, event. So that's a possibility that Ultron's there. Now, episode 3 is when all the Avengers died. Tony had not created Ultron. Episode 4 was the Doctor Strange one,
which the whole universe ended.
Right, and so and we also have to assume that that's post Ultron,
right?
Just like Doctor Strange is. So yeah, and he collapsed his whole universe. Then we have the zombie one. Which again, because we saw Vision, I don't think it's that
right.
One. And then last week's episode was the what was it?
Doctor Strange. Oh gosh, now I'm drawing a blank.
I'm drawing a blank on it too. It was the one neither of us liked.
That's how good it was, though, man. Look how good it was. We remembered it verbatim. That it came right after the other one we didn't like, the zombie one. Oh, Killmonger.
That's right. And so in that one too, Tony dies.
Yeah, so he never makes Ultron.
And so really, I think the only possibilities, if it's from one of our stories, is that it's now. I think what it probably is that it's from episode 8. Yeah, I think that's the one that we're going to get introduced to that character, and then episode 9 is going to be bringing the team. Yeah, that's my guess. That's
what I'm going to go with as well. I think at least the first half of episode 8 is going to be the where did he come from, and the second half I think is going to be the start.
Let's get the team together.
Yeah, of Utawa saying we got to get the team together. I got Thor, I got a Strange, I got an Iron Man, I got a Cap.
Now I have a question. Is like, I'm really curious to see what justification they're going to give for which characters he pulls. Because if you look at this episode, if I'm Uatu, I'm gonna pull Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Like, why would I pull Party Thor instead of Captain Marvel? Or both? Why wouldn't I pull both? So I'm curious to see what their justification is going to be.
Unless Marvel dies, because she's going to be the first one to go up against Ultron, and he just kills her right off the bat.
Well, he shows up literally right next to Thor. So Thor is going to be the first one to fight.
And that's what I'm saying. Maybe he's trying to pull both, but Marvel's like, no, I'm going to stay and defend. I'll be the Earth's defense. Because I would see her staying behind to try to hold him off. So go form a team while I try to do what I can. That's what I see her do.
Yeah, again, I think that it'll be interesting to see what justification they give for why certain characters being pulled and not others.
The Evil Strange, I'm going to be curious on.
Well,
that one I'll be here.
And the other thing too is, like we've seen in the promo material, we've seen like Black Widow, and having things like Captain America's shield and other things. Yeah. So there's been speculation that might be the Black Widow from the Avengers Hank Pym episode, where we didn't see a body.
Oh yeah, because he just
saw her get dragged off screen, and then there's a coffin. So certainly Nick Fury is either pretending that she's dead or thinks she's dead.
But Fury knows everything. He knows.
And so it would be interesting if they are pulling her, and it would also be interesting because I think in the What If comics, Black Widow at one point does wield Thor's hammer.
I'm sure. I don't know all of them.
And of course, in the movies, she was like the only character to not attempt it in Age of Ultron. She didn't try and pick up the hammer. Now, if you look at her universe that she's coming from, there's a hammer sitting there in the desert with the enchantment on it, waiting for someone to pick it up because Thor got shot by Hawkeye.
Right.
So that could be really interesting to see if we do see whoever comes from that universe. Yeah. Are they going to bring Mjolnir with them?
I'd be interested. I would see that. So on that note, though, we've kind of ranted on this one. I think it's, like I said, it's up there for me, and I'm assuming it's up there.
It was a lot of fun. I think, again, I had some logistical problems, but other than that, I just enjoyed watching it.
Is it better than the zombies?
Oh, yeah.
That's our par. He's got to jump this little hurdle.
I mean, yeah, this is much better than the last two episodes, in my opinion. I wasn't a big fan of the zombie or the second half of the Killmonger episode. I liked the first half, but
you mean the one that we couldn't remember for a good 2 minutes? It was better than that?
And yeah, so I think, it's definitely, I think, my three favorites are probably the T'Challa Star-Lord, the Doctor Strange one, and this one.
I would agree. I don't know what order I'd put them in, but those would be my top three.
Yeah.
I really like those. But definitely let us know down below in the comments which one you liked, what you thought of everything. Was there an Easter egg you liked in this one that we may have missed? Let us definitely know. And of course, follow all of our social medias at officialGYGO. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. And on that note, stay geeky and get your geek on.